The first sound is a low metallic hum, the sound of a dying engine. Int. T-34 tank. Day darkness, pierced by thin slivers of light from viewports. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, gasoline, and fear. Senior Sergeant Ivan Lyubushkin, 30s, face a mask of grime and exhaustion, stares into his commander's periscope. His eyes, bloodshot and steady, are the only part of him that moves. Through the periscope, a hellscape in monochrome. The world is ash and fire. Buildings are skeletal ruins. The sky is a bruised, swirling ceiling of black smoke. A young radio operator, Sasha, 19, flinches with every distant explosion. His breathing is quick, shallow. He listens to the panicked, broken voices from the radio speaker. Sasha, whispering. They're saying the 112th is gone, wiped out, just gone. The loader, Nikolai, a broad-shouldered Siberian, closes his eyes. His lips move in a silent, frantic prayer. His hands, resting on a 76mm shell, tremble slightly. Suddenly, a deafening impact rocks the tank. A sound of tearing metal from the outside. The tank lurches violently. Lyubushkin is thrown against the hard metal rim of his hatch. A sharp grunt of pain escapes him. Driver Pavel, VO, strained. Left track. We lost a section. I can't get full power. Lyubushkin's face hardens. He barks an order, his voice a dry rasp. Lyubushkin. Pavel, get us behind that collapsed wall. Now! Nikolai, damage report. The tank groans, limping forward like a wounded beast. It lurches behind the remains of a brick wall, offering a moment of concealment. Lyubushkin shoves the heavy main hatch open. The sound of the outside world crashes in. A symphony of screams, explosions, and the crump of mortars. He climbs out. His boots hit the ground. He scans their tank. A section of the left track is gone, torn apart by a shell fragment. They are crippled. His eyes then sweep the street ahead, and he freezes. This is the shock. The hook. 20 meters away, another T-34 burns. It's not just burning, it's a funeral pyre. Flames roar from every hatch, and from the commander's cupola, the blackened, skeletal upper body of a tanker hangs, suspended, his helmet fused to his head by the heat. An unseeable face turned towards the sky. Lyubushkin stares. This isn't a soldier. It's a warning, a prophecy of their own end. A frantic lieutenant stumbles out of the smoke, his uniform covered in white brick dust, making him look like a ghost. Lieutenant Yu, are you functional? Lyubushkin, voice dangerously calm. We're mobile, barely. The lieutenant points a shaking hand towards the north, the direction of the Volga. Lieutenant, the 16th Panzer, they've shattered the front. They're driving for the river. If they reach it, the city is cut in half. There is no one else. He looks at Lyubushkin, his eyes wide with a terrifying mix of panic and desperation. Lieutenant, Con TD. The order is to delay, at any cost. Find a position. Make them pay for every meter. There is no fallback line. You are the line. The lieutenant doesn't wait for an answer. He just runs, disappearing back into the smoke, leaving Lyubushkin alone with the burning tank and the weight of an impossible command. Lyubushkin turns his back on the grim spectacle of the destroyed T-34. He lowers himself back into the belly of his own tank. The hatch closes with a heavy final sea-lang. Silence. The eyes of his crew are on him. Pavel the driver, Nikolai the loader, Sasha the radio operator, and the gunner, Alexander Ovsyannikov, a man so still he seems carved from stone. Lyubushkin doesn't look at them. He pulls a grimy, folded map from his tunic. He smooths it out on his knee. His finger, stained with oil and soot, traces a path. Not back, not to safety. It moves forward, deeper into the inferno. It stops on a location, a place of ghosts and memories. The Stalingrad Tractor Factory. He finally looks up, meeting the gaze of each of his men. He sees the fear. He sees the question. He sees the reflection of the burning tank in their eyes. His voice is low, stripped of all emotion, absolute. Lyubushkin. We are not retreating. He taps the map. Lyubushkin conted. We are going home. The T-34 crawls through the corpse of the Stalingrad Tractor Factory. This is not a place of production anymore. It is a skeletal graveyard of industry. Shattered glass crunches under the crippled track. The air smells of ozone, burnt metal, and the sickly sweet scent of things that should not be burning. They pass a massive assembly line, frozen in a grotesque tableau. The twisted chassis of half-built T-34s, their innards exposed, gleam dully in the firelight. They are among the ghosts of their own kind. Int, T-34 tank. Knight Lyubushkin guides Pavel with short, clipped commands through his headset. His eyes never leave the periscope. Lyubushkin left, slow, past the crane gantry. The tank shudders to a final stop deep within the factory's heart. Silence descends, broken only by the ping of hot metal cooling and the distant thunder of the front. Lyubushkin pushes the hatch open and climbs out. His crew follows, one by one, stretching their aching limbs, their faces pale in the gloom. They stand in a cavernous hall, its roof torn open to a starless, smoke-choked sky. Lyubushkin doesn't waste a second. He points to a specific spot where two massive workshops form a narrow corridor. Lyubushkin there. That's the throat. Driver Pavel, a man who understands terrain like a sailor understands the sea, nods slowly. He sees it not as a position, but as a part of the machine. Pavel, they'll have to come through there. Single file. We can enfilade the entire column. Gunner Ovsyannikov, his eyes like calibrated scopes, immediately walks to the position. He doesn't look at the rubble. He looks through it, calculating sight lines, engagement distances. Ovsyannikov, 300 meters to the choke point. A downhill shot. Like shooting into a barrel. This is no longer a retreat. It is a transformation. From prey to predator. The work begins. It is brutal, silent, and efficient. They don't just dig a hole. They perform surgery on the landscape. Using shovels, their bare hands, and a piece of twisted steel girder as a lever, they dig a grave for their tank. They bury the T-34 up to its turret, turning it from a mobile vehicle into a fixed, low-profile fortress. Nikolai, the loader, his brute strength fueled by a desperate energy, gathers bricks and shattered concrete blocks. He doesn't just pile them. He builds a false wall, carefully weaving debris around the tank's hull and turret, until it becomes an extension of the ruin. The T-34 ceases to be a tank. It becomes a pile of rubble with a gun barrel. Lyubushkin moves between them, a quiet conductor. He corrects the angle of a beam, adjusts the camouflage netting. His mind is building a three-dimensional map of the coming battle. Sasha, the radio operator, works on the external, stringing loose wires and metal scraps to break up the tank's distinct silhouette. His job is to make it invisible, a moment of crisis. Pavel, straining to move a massive concrete slab, slips. The slab shifts, pinning his leg. A stifled cry of pain escapes him. For a terrifying second, the spell is broken. The fear rushes back in. They are crippled, trapped in enemy territory. But then Nikolai is there, without a word, wedging the steel girder under the slab. Ovsyannikov abandons his sightlines and adds his strength. Together they heave. The slab moves, freeing Pavel's leg. He nods, his face tight with pain, and immediately goes back to work. No words of thanks are exchanged. The act itself is the language. They are one organism. As dawn begins to bleed a dirty gray light through the smoke, the work is done. They stand back. Their tank has disappeared. In its place is a perfect, murderous illusion. Lyubushkin looks at his men. Their uniforms are soaked with sweat and dust, their hands raw. He doesn't give a heroic speech. He gives them the only truth he has left. Lyubushkin, they are not expecting us. They will be confident. They will be looking forward to the river. We are the unexpected. We are the surprise. He turns and looks down the killing field they have created. The perfect fire sack. Lyubushkin, Conti. We let them enter. We close the door. And then we teach them the price of this ground. He turns back to his crew, his face illuminated by a single shaft of light piercing the ruined roof. Lyubushkin, Conti, to your positions. Without a word, the 4 men turn and climb back into the belly of their hidden beast. The hatch closes, sealing them in. The factory is silent once more. A tomb, waiting for its guests. The first sound is the heavy rhythmic breathing of the loader. Nikolai. In. Out. A steady, forced rhythm against the hammering of his own heart. The air inside the tank is already stifling, thick with the smell of cold steel, gun oil, and the acrid scent of adrenaline. Ivan Lyubushkin's eye is pressed to the commander's periscope. His world is a circle of fragmented glass, showing the corpse-strewn corridor between the 2 factories. Silence. An unnatural, oppressive silence. Sasha, whispering. Nothing on the radio, just static. Gunner Ovsyannikov's hands rest on the firing controls. His fingers are relaxed, but every muscle in his forearms is taut, like coiled springs. He has already measured the world outside in meters and angles. The pile of bricks at 150 meters. The shattered crane base at 275. The killing zone at 300. His world is now a series of mathematical solutions. Then a new sound. A low, distant rumble. Not the erratic thump of artillery. This is a continuous grinding growl. The sound of many heavy machines moving in concert. Lyubushkin's voice is a low, calm murmur in the intercom. It cuts through the tension like a knife. Lyubushkin. Steady. They are coming. Through the periscope, a shape materializes in the haze at the far end of the corridor. Then another, and another. German Panzer IIIs and IVs, their gray hulls stark against the ruins. They advance not in a battle formation, but in a column, confident, almost arrogant. Their commanders are standing tall in their cupolas, binoculars scanning the horizon towards the Volga. They are not looking here. They are not looking at this pile of rubble. Pavel, VO, strained. I count 12, 15, more behind them. A full battalion. Lyubushkin. Let them come. Let the head of the snake enter the bag. The lead panzer is now at 400 meters. 350. Its machine gunner casually sprays a burst into a ruined building, a gesture of routine suppression. They are so close Lyubushkin can see the unit insignia on its side. Lyubushkin, Conti, Alexander, the leader. Ovsyannikov's eye is already glued to the telescopic sight. His right hand makes a microscopic adjustment to the traverse handle. The turret emits a barely audible hum. Ovsyannikov, identified. 300 meters. Lyubushkin fire. The world inside the tank turns into sound and fury. The 76mm gun roars. The massive shell casing ejects with a deafening clang, filling the compartment with a wave of intense heat and the blinding flash of the muzzle blast. The spent casing is immediately scooped up by Nikolai in a well-practiced, violent ballet. Through the periscope, Lyubushkin watches the result, a perfect, brutal equation. The armor-piercing round strikes the lead panzer's turret ring. For a nanosecond, nothing. Then a jet of orange fire erupts from every hatch. The tank lurches to a halt, belching black smoke. A helmetless German commander scrambles out, his uniform on fire, before collapsing. Chaos erupts in the German column. Lyubushkin. Next target. The one behind him. He's trying to push past. Ovsyannikov. On it. The turret rotates a few degrees. The second roar. Another clang of hot brass. The second panzer, attempting to maneuver around the burning wreck, takes a hit in the side. Its ammunition cooks off in a spectacular secondary explosion that tears the turret clean off its hull. The shock wave rattles the bricks, camouflaging their own tank. The fire sack is now sealed. The two burning wrecks block the narrow passage. The following German tanks are trapped, piling up behind the carnage. They are a traffic jam of steel, perfectly framed in Ovsyannikov's sight. The German commanders are now frantically scanning the ruins, trying to find their invisible enemy. A machine gunner sprays bullets indiscriminately at piles of rubble. They are blind. Lyubushkin. They don't see us. Methodical. Take your time. The T-34 becomes a metronome of death. Roar. Clang. A panzer's fuel tank erupts. Roar. Clang. A track is blown off, the tank spinning uselessly. Roar. Clang. A direct hit through the driver's viewport. Nikolai is a machine, his body slick with sweat, his muscles burning. He feeds the gun, shell after shell, his world reduced to the repetitive motion. Grab, load, step back. The heat is unbearable. The floor is littered with hot, smoking shell casings. Sasha, despite having no target, grips his machine gun, his knuckles white, his body flinching with every shot their own tank fires. This is not a battle. It is an execution. Lyubushkin's voice remains a calm, relentless monotone, directing the slaughter. Lyubushkin, the one reversing. Hull down behind the rubble. Wait, he's exposing his flank. Now. Ovsyannikov obeys. The gun barks again. Another German tank is consumed by fire. The once proud column is now a scrap yard of burning metal. Thick, oily smoke blankets the corridor, stinging their eyes even inside the tank. The Germans are completely halted, their advance broken on this invisible, immovable wall. A temporary, eerie silence falls, broken only by the crackle of flames and the faint, horrifying screams from outside. Inside the T-34, the crew breathes in ragged gasps. They are deafened, exhausted, and covered in grime. They have become architects of a small personal apocalypse. Lyubushkin scans the carnage through the periscope. His face shows no triumph, only the cold satisfaction of a perfect plan fulfilled. Lyubushkin, conted, reload, high explosive. They will not make the same mistake twice. The next move is theirs. The silence is a lie. Inside the T-34, the only sounds are the ping of hot metal cooling and the ragged gasp of four men trying to breathe in an oven. The air is a poisonous fog of cordite, sweat, and the coppery tang of fear. Even Lyubushkin's eye remains glued to the periscope, scanning the smoke-shrouded killing field. The burning panzers are funeral pyres, their black smoke choking the corridor. Sasha, voice cracking. Do you think they'll pull back? As if in answer, a new sound erupts. Not the rumble of tanks. This is a high-pitched, terrifying whine growing rapidly in intensity. Lyubushkin, incoming, brace. The world explodes. A German artillery shell, fired from a distant battery, slams into the ruins just meters from their position. The concussion is a physical hammer blow against the tank's hull. A deafening clang of metal on metal. The entire vehicle shudders violently, throwing the crew against their stations. Dust and chunks of concrete rain down on the exterior. Before they can recover, another whine, another ear-shattering impact. This one is closer. The shock wave is immense. A spiderweb of cracks appears in Lyubushkin's periscope glass. Pavel, over the intercom, panicked. They've got our range. They're walking it right to us. A third whine. This one doesn't stop. Lyubushkin, this is it. Brace for deer. The shell strikes the frontal glacis plate with the force of a freight train. Int. T-34 tank. The impact. The sound is apocalyptic. A deafening metallic screech as the armor is struck. The interior of the tank lights up with a shower of brilliant orange sparks as the shell's kinetic energy is dissipated in a nanosecond. The tank recoils like a living thing. Everyone is thrown forward. Lyubushkin's head smacks against the periscope housing. Stars explode in his vision. Sasha, the radio operator, lets out a short, sharp scream. A long, sharp sliver of metal, spalled from the inside of the hull by the impact, shoots across the compartment and embeds itself in his shoulder. He clutches at it, his face a mask of shock and pain. The lights flicker and die, plunging them into near-total darkness, lit only by the faint, hellish glow from the viewports. For a moment there is only chaos, pain, and the ringing in their ears. Nikolai, in the darkness, a whisper. We're burning. I smell fuel. Panic is a living entity, clawing its way into the steel coffin. Pavel, his voice breaking. That's it. We're sitting ducks. Ivan, we have to pull back. We can't take another hit like that. This is the breaking point. The cold calculus of the trap has been replaced by the raw animal instinct to survive. Lyubushkin, his head throbbing, wipes a trickle of blood from his eye. He ignores Pavel. His voice cuts through the darkness, not with anger but with a terrifying absolute calm. Lyubushkin. Sasha. Report. Sasha is hyperventilating, sobbing quietly. Sasha. My arm. I can't feel. Lyubushkin. Nikolai. Check the hull. Is it breached? Nikolai, his hands trembling, runs them over the cold steel where the shell hit. Nikolai. The armor held. By the grace of God it held. No breach. Lyubushkin turns in the gloom, his face a ghostly mask of determination. He looks at Pavel, whose frantic breathing is audible over the intercom. Lyubushkin. Pavel. Look at your periscope. Look at what we have done. Pavel reluctantly presses his face to his scope. He sees it. The corridor is a junkyard of German steel. The advance is completely, utterly halted. Lyubushkin, Kontid. They are not shooting at a tank. They are shooting at a pile of rubble that they cannot understand. That is our advantage. That is our weapon. He turns his gaze to Sasha, who is clutching his wounded shoulder. Lyubushkin, Kontid. Nikolai, tend to him. Use the kit. Stop the bleeding. There is no debate, no vote. In the darkness, Lyubushkin's will becomes their own. The panic recedes, replaced by a grim, shared resolve. They have passed through the fire and have not burned. Nikolai fumbles for the first aid kit. Pavel's breathing slows. Ovsyannikov, who has not said a word, simply wipes the dust from his sighting telescope and repositions himself. His hands are steady. The artillery barrage stops as suddenly as it began. The Germans, confident they have silenced the position, are preparing to move again. Lyubushkin speaks, his voice low and raw. Lyubushkin, Conted. They think we are dead. Let's show them we are ghosts. He turns to Ovsyannikov. Lyubushkin, conted, gunner. A new target is coming. Make it count. In the suffocating darkness, the metallic clang of a new shell being loaded into the breech is the most terrifying and beautiful sound in the world. The only light is the blood-red glow from Sasha's battle lantern, casting long, dancing shadows. Nikolai finishes tying a rough bandage around Sasha's shoulder. The white gauze is already blooming with crimson. Sasha's breathing is shallow, his face pale and slick with sweat. The air is a toxic mix of blood, smoke, and spent cordite. Ivan Lyubushkin presses his eye against the cracked periscope. The world outside is a haze of smoke and heat shimmer. The German column is a paralyzed beast, coiled and confused. He can see the commanders in their cupolas, gesturing frantically, their heads on swivels, trying to pinpoint the threat that has decimated their spearhead. Lyubushkin. Voice is a dry rasp. They're blind, and they're scared. Gunner Ovsyannikov doesn't respond. His world has shrunk to the crosshairs of his sight. He tracks a Panzer IV that is cautiously nosing out from behind a burning wreck. His finger rests lightly on the trigger. Ovsyannikov. He's hesitant. He doesn't want to be the next one. A new sound cuts through the low crackle of flames. The distant rising drone of aircraft engines. Stukas. Sasha, weakly. Air. For a moment, a new kind of fear grips them. They are utterly exposed from above. But the scream of the dive bombers passes over them, moving further east, towards the city center and the Volga. The German command, convinced the immediate threat is neutralized or too well hidden, is redirecting its fury forward. They have written off this pocket of resistance as a costly but localized nuisance. This is the victory. Not in the tanks they've destroyed, but in the time they have stolen. Lyubushkin watches through the periscope as the German formation begins to change. The trapped tanks at the front start to pull back, reversing with painful slowness. Others on the flanks attempt to disperse, seeking new routes through the impossible maze of rubble. The tight, confident column has disintegrated into a disorganized mob. Their momentum is broken. Their timetable is in ashes. Pavel, over intercom, awe in his voice. They're turning back. They're going around. There is no cheer, no celebration. Inside the tank, the silence is heavier than any explosion. The adrenaline that has sustained them for hours recedes, and in its wake comes a crushing wave of exhaustion. Nikolai slumps against the radio set, his hands raw and bleeding. Ovsyannikov finally leans back from his sight, closing his eyes, his entire body trembling from hours of hyper-focused tension. Lyubushkin, slowly, stiffly, lowers himself from his commander's seat. He looks at his crew, at Sasha, breathing raggedly in the red light, at Nikolai's spent strength, at the silent, stoic Ovsyannikov. He hears Pavel's relieved sigh over the intercom. He reaches for a canteen, his hands shaking so badly he can barely unscrew the cap. He doesn't drink first. He moves to Sasha, supporting his head, helping him take a small sip of warm, metallic-tasting water. The battle is over. The cost is now a physical weight in the room. Lyubushkin makes his way back to the periscope for one last look. He does not see the 9 burning wrecks they have tallied. He sees the chaos they have sown. He sees the delay they have manufactured with their own will and blood. He turns away from the eyepiece. The red light catches the grim determination still etched on his face, but also a profound, bone-deep fatigue. Lyubushkin Pavel. Nikolai. Alexander. He says their names, not their ranks. A simple, powerful acknowledgement. Lyubushkin, Contid. We held. He doesn't say anything else. No grand speeches, no talk of glory or the motherland. Those are abstractions for men far from this steel coffin. These two words are the only truth that matters. They held. The camera slowly pulls back from the tank, now just a silent, scarred monument nestled in the bricks. It rises higher, above the factory floor, above the burning wrecks, revealing the wider cityscape. We see other pockets of fire, other battles raging. But in this one critical corridor, the German advance has stopped. The T-34 of Senior Sergeant Ivan Lyubushkin is no longer just a tank. It has become a line on a map that the enemy could not cross, a shadow that forced a giant to stumble.